Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is set for one episode. Your host from Columbus, Ohio, is Michael Kirk. Welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast. Hello and welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast, your digital audio dirt sheet for all things Super Show. And on this show, the first of three specials we're going to do covering the Kickstarter. I'm going to talk about the competitor cards, competitor sets, and I guess you'd say deck cards, the 1 through, in this case, 27 cards, that are part of the first box set, the box set that was available in the singles match tier. This, of course, is the set that it features Rainbow Girl versus Terror Skull. It also includes Little Miss Fury and Whip-a-Whip. So there's a couple different ways I could go with this. I'm going to go with the deck first, and then I'm going to go into the competitors. So, without further ado, here are the cards in the first box set. We're going to go through these three cards at a time. So we'll start with the first three. The lead strike number 1, lead grapple number 2, and lead submission number 3. The strike number 1 is the 1-2 punch. The grapple is the 2-handed toss. And the submission is the 3/4 wrist lock. These are already cards that exist in the game. I believe these are alt art versions. If I'm wrong, then I apologize. But these are cards that already exist, and they all have just the same text. Draw one card. Very simple. The next three cards are cards that, again, also exist in the game. Numbers 4, 5, 6. Again, lead strike, grapple, submission. The snap kick, super hip toss, and elevated armbar. These each stop follow-ups. The text of the strike says stop any follow-up grapple. Each player draws one card. The grapple says stop any follow-up submission, and the submission says stop any follow-up strike. They're very common cards in the game. The versions that are spoiled are not alt art. And I'm actually thinking that the other versions, I said they're alt art. I'm actually looking at the dates. They're all copyright 2019. I don't believe these are alt art as well. Now, I could be surprised, and maybe in the box set they will be alt art. But right now they just appear to be the standard art. The next cards, from what I can tell, they're new cards. This is the lead strike, grapple, and submission number 7 through 9. They're called Overrun, Takedown, and Apply Pressure. Again, these three all have the same text. Draw 2 cards. Very simple, but, very effective. Drawing 2 cards is drawing 2 cards. Alright, let's move on to the next three. Numbers 10, 11, and 12. Again, lead strike, lead grapple, lead submission. The lead strike is Kicking It Old School. The grapple is Boss Around. And the submission is Chin Choke. They'll have pretty much the same text. Kicking It Old School, the lead strike says, if you have another strike in play, draw 2 cards. The grapple version, Boss Around, has grapple instead of strike. And the submission version says submission instead of strike. So, essentially, they're each one. If you have another of that same type, you'll be able to draw 2 cards. Notice off this right away, again, it's gonna have, you've got kick in the first one, nice keyword for TJ Marconi. You've got chin and choke in the submission. Chin, of course, will work for Uncle Awesome. Choke for the Witch's Apprentice. Having looked through these a few minutes ago, there are a number of cards in here that will work with the Uncle Awesome as far as triggering off of chin. I like these. They remind me very much of Strike Down, which is a follow-up strike that says if you have another strike in play, draw 2 cards. So these are the sort of the lead versions of that card. But that's all I have to say about those. Let's go on to 13 through 15. Now we're into the first follow-ups. 13 is Marching Stomps. 14 is Subatomic Drop, and 15 is Arm Mender. These cards all have the same text. They just say, your next turn roll is +2. Again, it's just, what I'm seeing so far through these cards is just very basic, simple cards that looks just one thing that is just a solid thing to do. I like this so far as a starter deck. It's a very simple starter deck. Of course, Marching Stomps at 13 has not just the word stomp in it. It's for people like, I believe Krampus has a finish that triggers off the word stomp. It also has, because Marching has CHIN in it, this is also a card that would work for Uncle Awesome. Subatomic Drop has drop in it, so it's going to work for TJ Marconi. This has the 15 Arm Bender. Of course, Arm works with people like the Gold Standards finish, the Hallow Kings gimmick. I don't know if there's any benders at this point, and I don't believe anyone triggers off Atomic yet. I feel like Atomic is one that's a potential keyword somewhere down the line. But those are the 13 through 15s. So no skill stops here. So far, this has been actually so far a very stop-light deck. The only stops we've had have been the 3 follow-up stops in the 4, 5, 6 slots. So let's go on to the 16, 17, and 18 slot. So at 16 we have Strike Down, 17 Double Arm Drop, and 18 Finger Lock. So now Strike Down I mentioned a little bit ago. This is actually an alt art version of the Strike Down we have now. The one we have now features the, I believe it's the New World Order. This one actually features Calais, and I'm not sure who Calais' opponent is in this, but they all have essentially the same text. The Strike Down says, if you have another strike in play, draw 2 cards. The Grapple says, if you have another grapple in play, draw 2 cards. The Submission says, if you have another submission in play, draw 2 cards. So these are essentially the follow-up versions of the leads at 10, 11, and 12. So again, I like these. They are very simple. Of course, keyword, the 17 has arm in it and drop in it. I mentioned those earlier. Those are keywords that are going to be good for certain players. Finger Lock. I'm trying to remember if there is I want to say that Mr. Snap and Marty Skrull have a gimmick that triggers off Finger Lock. I believe their gimmick triggers off either Snap or Finger Lock. So this is the first card we've had that says Finger Lock. There's a double Finger Lock in the 27 slot. That's a stop. I believe it's a stop any strike. And I can't remember what the rest of it does. But this is just the first basic Finger Lock card that'll work there. And then, of course, I think there are things that keyword off Lock. I believe Muerta Lock from Gia de los Muertos, who we are getting as a stretch goal in the Kickstarter, triggers off that. But those are the 16 through 18s. Here next, we'll go on to the 19 through 21. These are, again, still follow-ups. We have Finger Stomp at 19, Slammin' and Jammin' at number 20, and Ankle Torching at number 21. They're very similar, but in this case, this is going to list a skill, and each skill will be different. The Finger Stomp, the follow-up strike, says +1 to submission. The Slammin' and Jammin' says +1 to strike. And the Ankle Torching says +1 to grapple. So, keywords that I notice. Of course, the first one has Stomp in it, like I said, Krampus. The second one has Slam in it, so it's going to work with people like Steve Slambros or the mayor of Slamtown, Johnny Super Show. And the last one, because it says Torching, because Torching again has CHIN in it. This is another Uncle Awesome card. A card that could work for him. Again, 19 through 21, oftentimes that's where you would see the elbow strikes, neck breaker, and leg lock type cards. So again, no stops in that slot. So far you only had 3 stops in this deck. And we only have 6 cards remaining. So, now we're in the 22 through 24. These are usually the power cards as far as follow-ups go. Let me just read through them. starting with the strike, number 22, karate kick, top rope drop, and kicker hold. So, of course, one of the stretch goals, I believe it's one of the stretch goals for signing up at the beginning, for pledging at the beginning, was, of course, the hyper forearm kicker hold choke. So we have the kicker hold here. These cards, again, all have the same text on them. They just say draw 2 cards. Your next turn roll is +1. Again, this so far has been a very, very simple deck, very straightforward. Mostly I've seen it's very draw heavy with a few turn roll bonuses. So, of course, the first one, karate kick. Kick, of course, is going to, like I said earlier, trigger TJ Marconi. The middle one's top rope drop. Drop again is a Marconi. Top rope is actually a trigger for Smiley. When his gimmick, when he rolls his agility, he'll get to search his deck or discard pile for a card with flying or top rope with the name and put that on top of the deck. So this is a card you can think about packing in that deck. I believe he does already have a card at the 23 slot that works for his gimmick. I'm not 100. Yeah, flying cutter, I think. Maybe some other things, but this is another option for him. Again, also the drop is a Marconi keyword, and then the last one, kicker hold. Again, kicker. Another Marconi option. Right now, I think the other kick one in the 24 slots is a headlock kick. This is a good option too. So far, I'm liking these cards. Again, they're very draw heavy. And now we get to the last 3 cards. I've mentioned before, this is a very stop light deck. There are very few. So far, the only stop cards we've seen are in numbers 4, 5, 6. There are also stops in these slots. So we'll start with, again, just going through 25 to 27, strike through submission. These, again, are, of course, are leads. Everything in the 25 to 27 slot is a lead. All right, we'll start with start with the first one. 25 is lightning kick. 26 is boss toss. And 27 is hair pull. So far, the only one I see with really keywords that I recognize is, of course, lightning kick has kick in the name. Again, I've mentioned Marconi multiple times. There really is nothing that keys off toss. I could see that changing at some point because there are quite a few cards that have toss in the name. And hair pull. There really isn't anything with hair. I could see that someday, maybe. And there's nothing with pull either. But these cards all pretty much have the same text. I'll read the text of the lightning kick, the lead strike first. It says, stop any lead grapple or finish grapple. Your opponent's next turn roll is -1. The grapple version has the same text, except it says stop any lead, submission, or finish submission. And the submission card has the same text, except it says any stop any lead strike or any finish strike. So it's kind of interesting, this deck. You have the ability to stop follow-ups from the 4 through 6, and then you have the ability to stop a lead or a finish in the 25 through 27. But otherwise, if you were going to open this starter deck up and play these starter cards, this is a very stop-light deck. You have the ability to stop one of each kind of card. You're sharing the lead and the finish and the same one. And again, this one has the same effect. Like I said, pretty much all the effects in this have been either affecting turn rolls or drawing. These are the first ones that affect turn roll that reduce your opponent's turn roll rather than boost your own. But yeah, this has been a very simple deck. So that is the deck that comes with the starter set featuring Rainbow Girl and Terror Skull. And again, because it is a 2-player starter set, you're going to have 2 copies of this deck. So you're going to have 2 copies of each one of these cards in here. So let's go through the competitor cards and the finishes. I'll start with Rainbow Girl. We've covered Rainbow Girl before because not only was Rainbow Girl pre-released, an alt art version that was drawn by Arnav Panda, and actually, looking at the art that Nuno made, I still like Arnav Panda's art better. I think that might be the best Arnoff Panda art, in my opinion. It's the one I like the most. But, again, we'll start with Rainbow Girl. Power 6, Technique 10, Agility 9, Strike 8, Submission 5, Grapple 7. When your opponent rolls power for their turn roll, draw 1 card. Again, with a Technique of 10, you're probably running single leg crab with her, and Agility of 9, kick in the corner. But now, for the first time, here are her finishes. The finish strike is Rainbow Road. It's +3 to power, +1 to strike, and +1 to grapple. It's going to bump the power from a 6 to a 9, the strike from an 8 to a 9, and the grapple from a 7 to an 8. So it'll give you essentially a 5, 8, 9, 9, 9, 10. So 2 out of 3 chance of rolling 9 or higher with that. That's pretty strong. The finished grapple, number 29, is Bubble Blaster. It's +2 to power, +2 to grapple, draw 2 cards. Again, sort of sticking with the simplicity and just the drawing bonuses. It's going to bump your power to an 8 and your grapple to a 9, so it'll be 5, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. So 5 and 6 chance of rolling an 8 or better. That's good too. And then the final finish, the submission number 30, Unicorn Ride. +3 to submission, +3 to power. It's going to boost your power to a 9, your submission to an 8. So it'll give you essentially 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. Better stats than the Bubble Blaster without the draw, but pretty similar, except that whereas with the Bubble Blaster, you can still potentially roll a 5. With the Unicorn Ride, the lowest you can roll is a 7. But yeah, again, for a starter set, I like it. It's very simple. Rainbow Girl is a very simple competitor to play. Next up, another competitor we've talked about because the alt art was spoiled as part of the Kickstarter stretch goals, Terror Skull. Terror Skull, power 10, technique 6, agility 8, strike 9, submission 7, grapple 5. When your opponent rolls technique for their turn roll, you may force them to re-roll. It's essentially the same gimmick as Big Shot, or the Big Shot, except whereas with the Big Shot, it's when your opponent rolls submission, this is when your opponent rolls technique. With power 10, he's looking at playing either Falling Power Slam, or, because his strike's 9, he could play the 7 Seals, and then with a strike of 9, Running Lariat. Here are the finishers. The finish strike, number 28, the Reign of Terror. It's a Spotlight card. It gives you +1 to agility, +3 to grapple. If your opponent rolled technique for their turn roll, this card is also a follow-up. I don't understand why the Spotlight is on this card. Normally a Spotlight means there's a discard pile effect. This isn't really a discard pile effect exclusively, because if you had this card in your hand and your opponent rolled technique for their turn roll, you could play this out of your hand as a follow-up finish. But with +1 to agility and +3 to grapple, it's going to bump the grapple to an 8 and the agility to a 9. So it'll give you 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10. 50% chance of rolling a 9 or better. 2 out of 3 of rolling 8 or better. I like it. It's good. And again, you have the option to play this as a follow-up. So if your opponent does roll technique, you have the potential to throw a card like Call to the Crowd, and then this, and have essentially a one-turn finish. So that's a nice effect to be able to do that. The finished grapple, number 29, Terror Rising, +3 to submission, +2 to grapple. It's going to bump your 5 to a 7 and your 7 to a 10. So it's going to give you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. 2 10s off the bat's very good. 50% chance to roll 9 or better, 1 in 3 chance of rolling a 10. And again, no other effect, so very simple. And then finally, Skull Crusher. +2 to submission, +2 to grapple. So it's boosting the same skills as your Finish, Grapple, to Terrorizing. And the rest of the text is, your opponent discards 1 card from their hand for each card you have in play with head or skull in the name. So of course this has skull in there, so they're always going to discard 1 card automatically just from you hitting this finish. Of course there's tons of cards with head, headlock, head drop driver, reverse head drop, headshot, probably a ton of headlock kick. Many options that have the word head in the name, charging headbutt. So many options to make your opponent discard quite a number of cards playing the Skull Crusher. But that is Terror Skull. Those were the 2 featured cards. Here are the 2, I don't know what you'd say, bonus cards, bonus competitors, but here are the 2 other competitors from the set. We'll start with RCW's own Miss Fury. We've covered this on the show, but that was just the card itself. We actually have not covered the finishes, so I'll review the card and then we'll talk about the finishes. Again, Miss Fury, Power 5, Technique 10, Agility 9, Strike 6, Submission 8, Grapple 7. When you hit a grapple, flip cards until you flip a submission. Add that submission to your hand. So Technique 10, again, single leg crab, 9, kick in the corner. When you hit a grapple, you're going to flip till you flip a submission. So what I would probably try to play in this deck, and I would have to look at how I'd build it, at least 1 card, at least 1 grapple that I can get back to my hand, maybe a spotlight grapple where if I roll a certain skill I can add to my hand. That way I can keep hitting it over and over to flip to get the submissions I want. But let's go through the finishes. So we'll start with the finish strike, number 28. Flying Fury. Flip 8 cards. Your strike skill is +1 for each strike flipped. I like that a lot. This to me is going to be a better early game rather than late game. Unless you are finding ways to shuffle strikes back into your deck. Because obviously as the cards come out, you have less opportunity to flip strikes, so you're going to have less bonuses to your skills. Because again, you don't get any bonuses if you flip no strikes. So if you have almost no deck left, I don't think you're going to want to be throwing this at the end of the game. You might have to, but again, this is going to be a very situational card. The finish grapple, number 29, loading 16%. It's also a spotlight card, second spotlight card we've seen. +3 to power, +1 to grapple. You may discard this card from your hand to blank the text of a submission play. It's a very good card. +3 to power is going to boost your power to an 8, and +1 to grapple is going to boost your grapple to an 8. So it'll give you 6, 3 8s, a 9, a 10, so 5 and 6 chance of rolling 8 or better on your finish roll. Again, those are very good odds. I always wonder with these cards, I have not gotten an answer yet. Because I can blank the text of a submission played, can I use this to blank a stop card? I don't know. But you could definitely use this to blank somebody's finish submission they are trying to play. Because it doesn't say you'd blank a card, text of a card hit, it's a card played. So if someone's attempting to play a finish, could I discard this to blank the stop effect so now the stop doesn't work? I don't know. I'm going to guess no, but it's a question I have. But that's loading 16%. Last, we have the finish submission, number 30. It's called Yes, Daddy. I don't know why, but that's what it's called. +2 to power, +2 to strike. Each time your opponent rolls for a breakout roll, add 1 card you haven't played to your hand. I like this card a lot. I'm not sure if it's going to let you add back your own submission. It may. It does not say add one other card you have in play to your hand. So I'm assuming you might be able to add this back. I do not know. but you're always going to be able to add back one card because your opponent's always going to have to roll for breakout at least one time. And you could theoretically add up to 3. And heck, in a last man standing match, you could potentially add up to 10. But I like that effect a lot. I don't know if I've ever seen that effect before, but I like that effect with this card. +2 to power and +2 to strike will boost your power from a 5 to 7 and your strike from 6 to an 8. So 2 7s, 2 8s, a 9, and 10. Just solid. So, pretty much gets rid of your botch, makes your minimum roll 7. So, fan of those finishes. And now we move on to the last competitor in this box set, Whippo Whip. Power 6, Technique 7, Agility 10, Strike 9, Submission 8, Grapple 5. When you roll strike for your turn roll, draw 1 card. So it's essentially the same gimmick as the Rising Sun, where with the Rising Sun, when you roll Technique, which is the Rising Sun's 9 skill, he draws a card. Here you're going to draw when you roll your strike, which is your 9 skill. So effectively, it's the exact same gimmick as the Rising Sun. Agility, of course, is your top skill, so you're probably looking to run... And actually, with a submission of 8, you might think about running Alien Invasion, otherwise Kick in the Corner. You obviously can't run Running Lariat because they're both number 13. That's your 9. So maybe you just go one stop based on having the higher skill. You could try, since your submission's 8, you could try running a bow and arrow. But you may just be a little stop light on this card. So here are the finishes for Whippo Whip. The finish strike, number 28, Whipparoo. +2 to Technique. If stopped, shuffle this card into your deck. It's going to bump your Technique from a 7 to a 9. So just 5, 6, 8, 9, 9, 10. 50% chance of rolling a 9 or better. The finished grapple, number 29, is Whiplash. It's +1 to Technique, +4 to Grapple. Shuffle 2 cards from your discard pile into your deck. It's going to bump your 5 up to a 9 and your 7 up to an 8, so it'll give you 6, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. 5 to 6 chance of rolling an 8 or better. It's pretty good. The text effect isn't bad. Then the last card, the finished submission, is the Whipper Snapper. +3 to grapple, +2 to submission. Your opponent discards 1 random card from their hand. So it's going to bump your 5 to an 8 and your 8 to a 10. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. Doubles your chance of rolling a 10. 50% chance of rolling 9 or better. And then the discard of the 1 random, could be good, could be bad. But that's it. That is all of the cards that are in the boxed set that was available at the singles match tier in the Kickstarter. And that's going to do it for this special episode of the Outlaw Mudcast. The next episode, we're going to be covering the box set that was available at the Tornado Tag Double or Nothing tier. The box set featuring Black Lipstick, Cryptocurrency, Storage Warriors, and Treaty of Friendship. But for now, that will do it for our show. Thank you all for listening, and good day.